Okay, so the chords for the 12-bar blues. Step one. So I felt like 12-bar would be a pretty good choice for beginner improvisers because with just a couple of simple tricks we can get through very easily. But it's a form that's complicated enough that we can open it up with tensions, we could open it up with substitutions, we could open it up with a whole bunch of other options in order to make it more complicated and more interesting. So it's really one of these forms that can evolve with your playing. To get going, we're going to play a full cycle of 12-bar. Now, you should be able to play chords 1, 4, and 5 in at least 3 positions on the neck, right? Okay? And we should be able to play this progression with using all of the same shape, all different shapes, in each position, right? Any way you can think of reusing this triad information to just cover the neck. We want to be doing that in your practice. So do it something for a couple of days, then challenge yourself and change it up. Maybe you do it all with first inversion shapes on one day, then all in one position on the next. In the next day past that, we do all second inversions, or we try to use 2 different positions on the neck, you know, that kind of thing. Constantly testing the knowledge. So, the form is 3 sets of 4 bars. So the first set of 4 is just all the 1 chord. For us, that's going to be in C major because we're in the key of C. The second set of 4 is going to be 2 bars of the 4 chord, which is F major, and then 2 bars of the 1 chord, which is C major. And then the last set of 4 is where most of the action happens, most of the interest of the chord progression happens. Here's where we get 5 for 1, that's G, 4 for 1, that's F, C for 1, which is 1, and then we get the 5 again for 1 bar to turn us around. Now there are tons and tons of variations. You could play this in minor, we could add 3, 6, 2, 5, 1s, you know, 4, 4 minor, whatever we want to do. We could add lots of substitutions, but this is a nice basic pattern to start from. Okay, so without much further ado, let's just get into a 12-bar. So here it is in basic form, just using some basic triads. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, easy as that. If that was nice and easy for you, great. I've got some more things to make it complicated. If that was difficult for you, make sure you go over it a lot. You try all your different inversions. If necessary, just carefully map out where your 1, 4, and 5 chords are and then just practice that for a little while. Okay, but if it was easy for you, let's build on this. One more step. So we could use chromatic stepping, and we could also use or more of our inversion shapes. You know, there's this whole chain of inversions we've been practicing pretty endlessly now. We could use more of that to create more of a story. So we could kind of improvise with the contour of the chords rather than improvising with the contour of a melody. So chromatic stepping, what's chromatic stepping? Well, that's where we take any chord that we're playing and we move it down a semitone and then come back into the chord, or up a semitone. So it could be something like this. We hear this kind of thing a lot in 50s lines, in jazz, anything where you want to create a bit of tension and movement where largely things are going to be static. Okay, so using the chromatic stepping idea and also using more of our inversions, here's an example of what that might look like. So remember, this is improvised, so we're not planning a route here, it's coming out of what I'm imagining at the time. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, one little mess up there on the 4 chord, but that'll do. Okay, so try to play around with this idea. Creating movement, creating interest. You know, this is what pianists do really, really well. But what guitarists tend not to do. We tend to treat chords as just static objects. Here is C, and the thing that I've got to do that's complicated is strum it. And that's simply just a very, very basic way of viewing what the guitar is capable of. Speaking of piano players, so piano players quite often have a little trick they do. So here's another thing we could do to spice up this chord part. Piano players will often weave between the chord we're on, so this is C, and its 4 chord, F. Alright? We could think about this as the sus4 and the 6 added to the chord, or we could think about it as its relative 4. Things like this. Alright, the famous Start Me Up lick. Yeah, we can use this in a 12 bar like a piano player would, like Alright? You need to figure out what all of these things would be in each position, right? So here, if we're doing first inversion, it's going to rock between a root inversion and first inversion. If we do second inversion, it's going to rock between first inversion and second inversion. If we do a root inversion, it's going to rock between second inversion and root inversion. All right, we hear this kind of thing in the piano part on something like Werewolves of London. Now, one thing here is that the 4 chord that we're going to on some of these chords is going to break the key signature, and that's fine, right? So on this 4 chord, if we do F, it's going to go F to a second inversion, right? Root inversion always moves to second inversion. This chord is B flat. B flat is not in the key of C, but that's okay. All right, so something might look like this. Now we can combine any amount of all of these ideas all the time. Let's not forget tensions, right? We could add 7s on each chord, we could add 6s on each chord, in order to make the rhythm parts more exciting and more interesting. All right, if you've got all of that down and you feel really comfortable with all of these ideas, you've played around with each of them, it might be time to start writing a melody. So let's take a look at writing a motif and developing a motif over the next few videos. Great.